had to resume the video back up on the PS4 here. Let me know how this ends up looking, by the way, once it's finally uploaded and archived. Do we like the PS4 capture format and software, or would we prefer the capture card? It's entirely up to you guys. At any rate, as we climb up here and obtain our first equipable item, which I'll talk about in a second, I wanted to make mention, really quickly, that this is the Kingdom Hearts HD re-release from the 1.5 plus 2.5 HD collection on PlayStation 4, meaning it is the final mixed version of Kingdom Hearts, a version of the game that was originally released only in Japan for the PlayStation 2, and featured a significant amount of content that was not in the international version of the game, including secret boss fights, new weapons, items, and even a few unique enemies, all of which hopefully I'll be showing off during the course of our streams here on the channel. Okay, so we have now everything but the last mushroom, I want to say. And I was saving that one deliberately until we gathered everything else we'll need from the Destiny Islands, because gathering it triggers a significant plot event. The item we recovered from the chest just a minute ago was a protect chain, an accessory that we could equip in the menu. I'll wait to do that until a bit later, that will give us a honestly kind of negligible boost to our physical defense. At this point in the game, you really shouldn't be needing defensive accessories, but we'll pop it on after this cutscene just so that we can say we did. This is like the childhood play place of Sora, Riku, and Kairi. As I understand it, Sora and Kairi especially. As you can see, the precocious little tots would come in here and scribble all over the stone, and then we have this very out-of-place, like, door here. I mean, this is like a Bethesda cave door. And it's just in these kids' play place. This does have plot significance, and we're about to see why. As soon as we gather our final provision. Sora will forever be a 5-year-old. Mentally, spiritually. Forever juvenile.
Who's there?
I've come to see the door to this world.
Huh?
This world has been connected.
Well, what are you talking about?
Tied to the darkness. Soon to be completely eclipsed.
Well, whoever you are, stop freaking me out like this. Huh? Well, where did you come from?
You do not yet know what lies beyond the door.
So you're from another world.
There is so very much to learn. You understand so little.
Oh yeah? Well, you'll see. I'm gonna get out and learn what's out there.
A meaningless effort. One who knows nothing can understand nothing.
The perfect summary of Sora as a character. Absolutely perfect. Now that mysterious robed figure was voiced by veteran Hollywood actor Billy Zane, who, oh my god, just turned in a phenomenal performance. Listening to that baritone in these headphones was, oh my god. Like I say, this game, like so many modern Square Enix titles, guys, is worth your time merely for the fantastic visual and, audio direction. The aesthetics of Square Enix titles have always been their principal draw for me as, a player, because these guys consistently turn out the greatest, environment design, fantastic VA work, usually, Kid Walker in the Destiny Islands accepted, and some really inventive character and environment designs. Obviously, this game's humanoid characters have a very distinct visual style that has become somewhat synonymous with Tetsuya Nomura as a character designer. So this bit right here, this quick little conversation we have with Kairi about her Thalassa shell necklace, is actually very thematically significant for the remainder of the series. Because this thing, the Wayfinder charm, makes some type of appearance either physically or as symbolism in just about every entry in the series from this point on. No idea why they put it in this first entry for some reason, but we turn our items into Kairi, and she gives us another insanely overpowered healing item that we do not need. So, if we call it a day right here, we'll get just a little bit more plot exposition, and then be thrust into the actual gameplay of Kingdom Hearts Final Mix. Really looking forward to this, so let's go ahead and get this show on the road.
You know, Riku has changed.
What do you mean?
Well...
You okay?
Sora! Let's take the raft and go! Just the two of us!
Huh?
Just kidding!
What's gotten into you? You're the one that's changed, Kairi.
Maybe. You know, I was a little afraid at first. But now I'm ready. No matter where I go or what I see, I know I can always come back here. Right?
Wouldn't
of course.
Count on that.
That's good. Sora, don't ever change.
Huh?
I just can't wait. Once we set sail, it'll be great.
I think this is a pretty solid scene, but it's hampered slightly by the exaggerated cartoonish imagery in the castle and the phonetic representation of Mickey Mouse's dialect in this fairly foreboding letter.
Oh dear! What could this mean?
It means we'll just have to trust the king.
Gorge, I sure hope he's all right.
You're honest. Don't worry. We'll find the king and the ski. Thank you. Both of you. Daisy, can you take care of them?
Of course. You be careful now, both of you.
Oh, and to chronicle your travels, he will accompany you.
Over here!
And another fan-favorite character,
Cricket's the
Jiminy
name.
Cricket.
Jiminy Cricket at your service.
We hope for your safe return. Please, help the king. You're coming too!
Gorge, Jiminy, your world disappeared too?
It was terrible. We were scattered. And as far as I can see, I'm the only one who made it to this castle.
Goofy.
Oh, right. I gotcha. You mean while we're in other worlds, we can't let on where we're from, huh? We gotta protect the world border.
Order.
Right. World order. Oh!
So that, like, universal law they just mentioned
Oh, I
is
guess we'll
never
need new dubs
consistently
when we get there.
enforced,
Huh?
from here on out. Obviously, when the anthropomorphic duck and dog show up in, say, the world from Pirates of the Caribbean, people can tell something's a little bit off. So, in later games, they kind of play fast and loose with the idea that, yes, you can say you're not from around here or from another world or something like that. It has effectively zero impact on the world order, as it were.
Gotta get to lunch, Troll. Anytime you're ready.
And here we have the first series appearances of Chip and Dale, who will be handling, actually quite a bit of, education and, modification in the, like, sub-game that you must play in order to, like, travel from world to world. Anything pertaining to that sub-game is Chip and Dale's territory. And I hate that little, like, mini-game, so we won't be seeing too much of them in this title. Now that's just smart architecture right there. So that blocky polygonal thing is the vessel we'll be using to travel from world to world, the Gummy Ship. I like to imagine it is literally made out of gummy candy.
I just can't wait
It's hardened
once we
somewhat.
set sail. It'll be great.
It's a little creepy that Sora has,
Oh no! The raft!
handmade rag dolls of himself and his friend in his homemade model
Sora,
boat. Like,
dinner's ready. Come on down. Sora?
but between that and all the drawings, I'm picking up like kind of an obsession here? And also the fact that Riku doesn't seem to actually matter to these poor kids at all.
What's that?
That's a
Riku's
MacGuffin,
boat.
Sora.
And Kyrie's.
Yeah, that's actually worth noting, by the way. These children live on a much larger island just across the strait from this one. And every day to come out here to, like, their little private entertainment island, they have to take these, like, felucca boats. Meaning they know something about navigation and, like, maritime crafts, and they think they can travel to entirely different worlds on a ramshackle, like, what looks like a salvage raft that would be less structurally stable or swift in the water than one of their little feluccas. Once more, I would like to point out that these kids are smart. Now the Destiny Islands is under siege by these strange little demons, the Shadows. And as you can see, for some reason, our wooden sword just phases right through them. There's absolutely nothing we can do. But Riku's up there on the overlook, and perhaps we can get some answers from him, or some help at least. This, friends, is actually a really effective setup for the plot at large. This last little bit of the Destiny Islands sequence is masterfully done.
Where's Kyrie? I thought she was with you.
The door is open.
What?
Again with the
The door is open, Sora. Now we can go to the outside world.
What are you talking about? We've got to find Kyrie.
Kyrie's coming with us. Once we step through, we might not be able to come back. We may never see our parents again. There's no turning back. But this may be our only chance. We can't let fear stop us. I'm not afraid of the darkness.
What could possibly go wrong?
Riku.
So Riku has, at this point, essentially given himself over to this invading, malevolent force, so that he may actually go out and see the stars and, like, become or do something greater. At least that's kind of the implication of this scene. We find out exactly how Riku was able to know so much of the metaphysical, like, goings-on in this universe this early in the game a bit later. But now, you see, we were saved from the encroaching darkness by a very impractically shaped weapon, the Keyblade. Now, if I recall correctly, the Keyblade was incorporated into the game specifically because Disney's squad of attorneys and negotiators didn't want the lead character in the game using so many programs, or, at the time, actually one of their characters, as in early stages of development, both Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck were considered to be the central protagonists of the series, to use a realistic-looking, ostensibly violent, quote-unquote, violent weapon. Because instead of hacking at cartoon demons with a sword or an axe, it's much more tame. They're akin with a giant iron bludgeon. And yes, while the Keyblade is referred to as a blade and is basically treated to and referred to as a sword in the series, it principally functions as a long mace. As you can see with the power of the Keyblade, this weapon of the light, gives ready pure light, darkness, heart's friendship, repeated ad infinitum, this series. We can actually deal damage to and dissipate shadows for nominal experience. Now, just before we proceed onward, we actually want to go into the shadows again. I'll cover some basic terms. Now, anybody who's familiar with Kingdom Hearts can tell you that its plot and lexicon are confusing as all get out, and they'd be right. But help simplify things for those of you who might not be so familiar with the lexicon, or rather just call things what they actually are in universe. In replace any reference to two parts, soul, as in that metaphysical component of our being, which gives us our personality and our autonomy, and references to light and darkness with just any type of opposing magical or natural forces that we may want to think of. Basically, light and darkness in this first game, now only in the first game, are synonymous with, like, sort of metaphysical concepts of good and evil, or pureness and corruption. But in later games, this becomes more nuanced, and light and darkness can basically be taken to mean matter and antimatter, two equal but entirely opposite forces at work in separate arenas within the world that don't necessarily determine or influence morality, but are in constant opposition to one another.
Kairi!
Sora...
Worth noting that that door, holding back the unfathomable penumbra, was apparently just in the middle of the Destiny Islands for years, and didn't cause any trouble until now. But now we are about to be sucked into this interdimensional rift, and must confront our dark side in reality. Now, really quickly, welcome to the Dark Side phase, or Stage 2 boss fight, ladies and gentlemen. A couple quick mechanics to go over before we delve into the fight. Dark Side fights essentially exactly as he did in the tutorial, with the addition of one new attack, wherein he will lay prone on the floor, allowing us to just whack away at that head for extra TP, and he will plunge his arm, his left arm I believe, down into the swirling vortex of darkness to gather a miniature version of that void that is like slowly absorbing the entire islands that's overhead right now. He will then thrust this orb upwards, shatter it, and conjure forth from the ensuing void a number of, like, dumbfire projectiles that I don't believe home whatsoever and deal really nominal damage. They'll just rain over the arena for a few seconds. It's even less of a threat, really, than the standard, like, punch already. That's about it. Let's see if we can. It's like a fair few hits. We actually get 3 tech points for each projectile. 1 for the reflection itself, and 2 for any contact it makes with dark side. This is a fantastic arena for this type of fight, far more visually interesting than the pillar in the Dive to the Heart. I wish it was easier to get, like, the
Come on!
So Darkside should already be fairly weak. And as I push down, I'll give you one last bit of nomenclature for now, so that this series of streams doesn't just turn into endless, like, great death. Darkside and the Shadows are characters that are, in some cases, either literally without oh, it's not dead. Or contain souls that have been riven from other sentient creatures. Heartless are the natural denizens of the realms of darkness, and are basically analogous to demons in this world. The design of the Heartless that's the anomalous aptitude as a monster design. Whether or not you like his character designs is largely determined by how you feel about his Shibuya-style influences. The, like, ridiculously airy color palettes and the abundance of chains and zippers are not really my thing. But his designs as a monster designer, dating back, to Final Fantasy VII, have always just entranced me. Because that same general aesthetic applied to inhuman creatures, like, of bizarre proportions and strange styles of movement, tends to be really, really cool to see in action. And we see now the intro sequence for our second world, Traverse Town.
Hey, maybe we ought to go find Leon. Oh, Donald, I bet you that,
what do you know, you big Toyota?
What do I know? Come on, Pluto!
It's one of those things, like just dating back to when I was a child watching either the classic Disney cartoons or the House of Mouse series on, was the Disney Channel back then. I just can't help but smile when I hear some of these voices. And we've got so many more nostalgic voices to meet up with over the course of this
isn't a dream. Where am I? Oh, boy. Do you know where we are? Hey!
So, we don't know how, but following the destruction of the Destiny Islands at the hands of the Heartless invasion, Sora was somehow safely whisked away to this place, Traverse Town. And it appears Donald, Goofy, and their companions are here as well, attempting to find not only the king, but discover why the stars have been blinking out of existence. It's definitely tied to, of course, heartless activity in the world. But our heroes don't quite know that yet. Before we get started, or go any further, I wanted to equip that Protect chain. As you'll see, there are a few very basic stats you'll have to worry about in Kingdom Hearts. I will run them down. They can be found in that sidebar. on the right-hand side of the screen, just to go over them very briefly. HP and NP should be pretty self-explanatory. NP works a bit differently in this game than it would in a Final Fantasy title, because usually one MP is equivalent to one cast of one spell. There are a couple that we'll find a bit later on in the game that are so powerful they may require 2 MP per use, but for the most part, it'll be a perfect 1-to-1 ratio. AP, or ability points, determine how many different supplementary skills you can have equipped at a time. We can equip or unequip any abilities we receive through leveling up or completing particular story battles at any time, well, outside of combat, of course, and AP simply represents the maximum number of ability points you can have expended at any one time. And strength and defense should once again be fairly self-explanatory. Strength refers to the amount of raw damage you will do with your Keyblade's melee attacks, while defense, in this case, I believe, will affect the amount of damage you take overall, though there are particular elemental resistances that you can mess about with more complex pieces of equipment later on. This protect chain will nominally raise our defense by 1 point, but we have nothing better at the time, so it's kind of what we're stuck with. And if you look up here, you can see each character we will ever have to deal with has weapons that, depending on the character, can be exchanged as well, in addition to their accessories. In Sora's case, he fights with different keychains that can be attached to the Keyblade. This one, the Kingdom Key, takes the form of the iconic Mickey Mouse head popularized by the Walt Disney Company, and each of them completely transforms the appearance of the Keyblade, in addition to granting it certain special abilities and characteristics. For instance, the Kingdom Key has a pretty decent strength stat for this early in the game, and will also boost our magic points. I believe, slightly. So it's a perfect all-rounder Keyblade for this point in the game, but also, if you notice during the Darkside fight, we leveled up and earned an ability called Slapshot. Now, if we take a look at this, we see that Slapshot requires us to use only a single ability point, so we definitely can equip it at this point. And it is going to be an addition to our standard melee combo that will occasionally deal critical damage, but also strike enemies in front of us in quick succession. No, I don't think in quick succession, but it allows us, if this is the ability I'm thinking of, and you'll have to forgive me because it's been just a little while since I played through Kingdom Hearts 1, this is Sora's equivalent of the Stinger from the Devil May Cry series that will allow him to close the gap between him and enemies that are fairly distant. It replaces the first blow of the combo if you are locked onto or near an enemy, and press the X button. Now that that's all over and done with, let's actually get out into Traverse Town proper and experience some of the most beautiful and iconic music in the entire series. So Sora got his wish, but is it ultimately what he wanted? We'll find out. Oh god, this music is so beautiful. There are so many great covers of this track on YouTube, especially a couple I found that were performed by like full-on brass ensembles that sounded just beautiful. But at any rate, we are right here in the first district of Traverse Town, a very special world in that it's not really drawn from or based upon any one property, but like a couple of worlds in the Kingdom Hearts series, seems to be loosely based on the aesthetics of the Final Fantasy games that director Nomura worked on prior to Kingdom Hearts. We see we have a few NPCs to talk to here for additional flavor. Basically just letting us know to explore the town in order to progress the plot. So what that less than friendly NPC really meant, what they just articulated to us, is that Traverse Town is a special world where individuals lost to the void between dimensions ultimately end up resurfacing in. That was a sentence, what I just said. And we see here, I wanted to save the best for last, we have one of the adorable and iconic Moogles from the Final Fantasy franchise, who have a pretty prominent presence in other games in the series, but in this game restrict their operations to Traverse Town. Oh, look at the little guy. There's quite a few of them we can find around, and they could be quite helpful later on in the game. There's a mailbox here you can interact with to learn about a special contest. If we find postcards throughout Traverse Town, we can drop them in the mailbox in exchange for some pretty decent early game loot. There is an item shop we can explore, perhaps finding, well, not our friends, but certainly some more classic Disney characters. Huey, Dewey, and Louie, Donald Duck's nephews, typically act as shopkeepers for the traditional general store item shop in Final Fantasy parlance. And they offer some very basic sundries throughout the game. Just recovery items at this point, nothing will be needed. But as time goes on, they will offer some special weapons that cannot be found elsewhere. Weapons for our companions, that is. And so it's usually worth stopping in to see them after every couple of story chapters. Oh, wait a moment, we missed something in the item shop. I'm sorry, you guys, we're going to be moving kind of slowly in these first couple of streams because there is a lot to explore in the early game, and especially in Traverse Town. You see, we can barely reach that ceiling fan, and if we strike it with our keyblade just so, we should be able to set it spinning, like so, and knock a postcard loose from atop it. Now all we have to do is pop on over to the mailbox, drop it in, and get a nice little reward, which at this point will be a cottage. A fairly useless item that we can use to fully recover HP and NP from the pause menu between combat. Not something I have ever found myself needing to use in a Kingdom Hearts game, and I believe a mechanic that was eliminated entirely in subsequent entries in the series. This is the accessory shop, where we can find none other than Final Fantasy VII Sid, the gruff and experienced airship pilot, who is actually probably the most plot-significant Final Fantasy character in this title. Well, to be fair to Sora, Sid's supposed to be, I think, in his mid-30s, which in anime years would make him, like, a few hundred years old. So, our next order of business is just to explore Traverse Town. A couple things to note here in Sid Accessory Shop. There's plenty of things to interact with in this world in particular, but we won't have the opportunity to do so until we gain some more advanced abilities toward the end of our time in Traverse Town. Now you may have noticed, hold on, I'll just go into first person mode here, not really advised outside of world exploration. This mark on the ground here, you no doubt saw a red version of this on the, like, slapshod wooden wall next to the place where Sora regained consciousness here in Traverse Town. And that is a Trinity mark. Once you make enough progress through the main story, you will unlock the ability to interact with specific Trinity marks and cause certain environmental changes in the world around you, typically earning you treasure. Speaking of treasure, we just got a mithril shard, an item that will be critically important once we unlock the second floor of this building, the Moogle Synthesis Shop. Unfortunately, that won't be made available to us until we are able to interact with these green Trinity marks, so we'll have to come back a bit later. Now the only thing we can really do is explore Traverse Town, and once we've been to the third district, work our way back around to the first, and at that point we can actually get on with the plot proper. We have this gentleman here blocking the way from the concourse below. Okay, so this is really important. The Moogles, once they finally open up shop, will allow you to synthesize some common healing items and accessories, yeah, but also insanely powerful weaponry for your party. So we will be making good friends with the Moogles over the course of our playthrough. This safe is locked. I can't think of anything we could possibly use to get in there. It's not like we have a ridiculous giant key-shaped weapon or anything, but never mind, we'll be back to interact with that a bit later on. Now there's one item we can get on the roof of the accessory shop. It'll take a little bit of acrobatics at this point, though. One thing that many commentators have pointed out about Kingdom Hearts vis-a-vis some of the later entries in the series, Kingdom Hearts 2 especially, is that it places a pretty significant focus on exploration, platforming, and kind of getting really immersed into these worlds beyond combat. Oh, just made it. See, they're sneaky. They hide stuff all over the place, including our second postcard. Very, very important at this stage. And I think placing a good focus on exploration and giving your players an incentive to, like, feel around and experience the full breadth of these environments that you spend so much time painstakingly crafting is a good thing. And that's not to say I don't like the pugilistic focus of later entries. I'm just saying perhaps there's a happy medium we could strike. And it looks like, based on what we've seen of Kingdom Hearts 3, that's exactly what they're going to be doing in that game. I've lathered on enough, though. We picked up another mithril shard, and it's now time to head into the second district, where we actually see someone's soul, claimed by these demons and transformed into a slightly more advanced Heartless than anything we've seen before.
Come on!
You'll notice that on that cutscene, it's a little bit more colorful and aesthetically distinct than the more, like, ill-defined pitch black shadows and dark shadows. And that's because they are two entirely different types of artists, and I don't mean, like, two different enemies. I mean, in the lore, they are, listen to me, in the lore, they are, created through different means. Quote-unquote pure-blood Heartless, that is to say those that have, like, a uniform, like, usually, like, black, dark blue, or dark violet color, naturally occur within the world, and, the Heartless we saw in that cutscene is something called an emblem Heartless. So named because they bear the distinctive mark of, like, the Heartless as a group of enemies. A black heart with a red outline and X running through. And Emblem Heartless, we'll find out how exactly. They're actually created artificially. And hence they take on more, I want to say more stylized forms than the kind of eldritch pure-blood Heartless. As you see, as we've been battering over the shadows in the second district, we've gained a couple synthesis items, the lucid shards. There's all types of shards, gems, crystals, and the like, all elementally charged and what have you, that you'll collect over the course of this game. And various enemies, of course, drop various loot. Now, early on, this is very, very cool because you get to just see so much treasure come rolling in from your dispatched enemies, right? But later on, you're going to be doing a lot of grinding for specific items. If we hop over here, you see that we'll find a Mega Potion. Even more powerful than the High Potion, the Mega Potion will restore health to your entire party. Once we actually get a party, that'll be quite significant. Picked up a third postcard, but I'm going to wait until we've made the full circuit of the districts before dropping that off in the post box. And now we get to fulfill the classic trope of two characters or two groups of characters active in the same space, always just missing each other. which we will have to endure several times until we have properly explored Traverse Town. Now this hotel will open up a bit later on. We'll be able to explore some of the actual suites. Right now the only thing of interest we can do is ring this desk bell a few times. I know there's no vacancy, but I think eventually this gives you something, maybe? Or is that later? As I said, the downsides of having to come back to this after quite some time. Once more for good. Okay. That was a waste of time then. If we head up the stairs here, we'll see this colorful cathedral-like structure is actually Traverse Town's Gizmo shop. I'm not entirely sure how or why you could define this as a shop, because as you'll see the interior, there's obviously nothing being manufactured or sold here. This
Come on!
looks like a flung factory reject. I have no idea what purpose any of this place serves, except it's implied later on some of this is actually like but again, this is very out of place even for Traverse Town. But I rather like it. It's very colorful and bizarre. And as you will quickly learn if you watch videos,
Come on!
I love things that are colorful, distinct, and bizarre. Meaning we are going to have so much fun in the next world especially. Because this is nothing in comparison to what we'll see over there. I know things are a bit of a brag right now, but early game is very important to gain as much experience as you possibly can. These little yellow and teal crystals that the enemies are dropping is money, spelled M-U-N-N-Y, because I honestly don't know why. I guess they just felt they had to stylize it. It's the currency we'll be using for the very limited transactions we'll be engaging in throughout the game. There's not many things aside from the aforementioned weapons that are worth buying. The last location we want to investigate in the 2nd District is the home of Pongo and Perdita from 101 Dalmatians. As we see here, unfortunately, only the parents are in this home, which apparently the Dalmatians live in on their own. They maintain their own rather sizable residence, and their 99 children were scattered to the 4 winds by the destruction of their home world. So we will be traversing around the various environments in this game, doing our best to track down boxes full of, like, kidnapped Dalmatian puppies as collectibles. There's actually a very good reason for doing so, because after every few rescues you make, you can receive some pretty unique gears from Pongo and Perdita. It hasn't been made clear thus far, but I kind of want to be going to Traverse Town fairly frequently as we progress through the game. Right now we're in a waterway behind the 2nd District, and there's just a couple pieces of cellar here. Oh, and it appears that the slap shot is not the attack I thought it was. Perhaps the combo stuff then. Well, at any rate, we've got just a couple pieces of treasure to pick up here, and then we're finally moving on with the plot properly. The potion could come in handy. If I end up doing even worse than I anticipate I will. I think there's one more chest we can get at this time. Oh. Sorry, there's 2, and I just literally jumped right past one. Combat is a little bland at present because we're only going to be running into shadows, but once we complete our tour of Traverse Town, that should change, and then we'll start to see a rapid expansion of the enemy roster. We'll just need to get up there and gather our final treasure of the area, and we'll be While I do appreciate that this game gives you plenty of incentives to explore through placement of alluring treasures just everywhere, the utility of those same treasures is something that tends to vary. Like, just now we got a pretty stone. I believe we also received one of these for beating Riku in the Destiny Islands race. And their only real value that I'm aware of is as vendor trash. You can sell them for a fair amount of money. Which we shouldn't ever really need if we do this properly. As I said, just playing through the game normally, you should have more than enough money to get whatever weapons you want, or whatever kit you want for your characters. And the stuff you just find if you thoroughly explore each environment should be more than sufficient to get you through most encounters with ease. Now we have thoroughly explored the second district, so it's time to move on over to the third, which, relative to this one, has pretty much nothing of interest right now. Now, I know I said you should always lock on in combat, but even this early in the game, the shadows are such a non-entity that it doesn't really matter. You can just swat away at them, and that'll do. Job's a good one. There is a vacant house I saw, but take me at my word when I say there is literally nothing in it. It is just an empty room that will have some plot significance a little later on. Overall, I really like the style of Final Fantasy. I like the style of Traverse Town because it's clearly influenced by Nomura's earlier Final Fantasy titles, and it just looks like this massive pleasure district. Neon lights, signage everywhere, kind of Victorian architecture. It's very beautiful, especially, again, for something that came from the early 2000s. They did a great job making this, despite being an environment that's not linked to any one significant property, feel distinct and impressive in its own self. Clear out all the shadows here, we can take a look around. You will notice this beautiful little cameo from Lady in the Tramp over in this corner, and a couple items of note. This gate, where we're at right now, actually leads back to the first district. That gentleman that explained the districts to us earlier, standing directly in front of the other side of this gate. But since we can't unlock it at present, we're going to have to take the long way back around. There's also a broken sparking conduit here. I think it's pretty obvious what we'll need to do to interact with this, but we're unable to at present. And lastly, there's another elemental interaction we'll have to take part in, hinted at right over here. So once we get some magic, there's an awful lot we can do in Traverse Town. Not right now, though, I'm afraid. The only things for us here... Come on! Shadows, a whole lot of totally useless money, and a Trinity Mark. We can't even use it at the moment. So we will definitely be coming back here in just a bit. You will see for some reason the third district is the only one to have an actual map, and it indicates that beyond that flame door is an area apparently of some significance to the town. And we'll see exactly what significance it holds. Just, well, probably actually a couple streams from now, but... I promise you guys, once we get through this opening section, specifically once we clear Traverse Town's, like, central plot, the game's pace picks up, really dramatically. I would expect to spend between 1 and 2 hours at the very most in a lot of worlds, and maybe only crossing that 2-hour threshold if we, really get involved with exploration. And I want you guys, either watch live or on VOD. as to what you would prefer. That I just mainline each world story and go back later to do a lot of exploration on like side streams, or that I kind of play this game as I normally would and do as much exploration and treasure gathering as I can as soon as I can in each world. The latter is taking our time a bit more, but we would also get some treasures, perhaps show off new abilities a bit earlier than just getting some of the level grinding and things out of the way naturally as we pick up like little treasure boxes and the like. So please, do let me know. And of course, let me know overall what you think of my style of presentation thus far. As I said, I'm really new at this. This is my first ever stream. I know I'm not exactly the most naturalistic presenter, and I'm going to try to work on that. So let me know what you think I could do to improve as a listener, what I could do to make the broadcasts more enjoyable for you, or more engaging. So, since we were unable to locate Riku or Kairi or get any leads whatsoever as to their whereabouts, we have to report back to Sid, who simply tells us to get right back out there and start beating the streets again. But we'll see that Sid actually sells several accessories, many of which can be fairly useful in the mid-game. But see, only problem is most of these you're seeing, Fire Ring, Blizzard Ring, Ability Stud, Protect Chain, can all be found fairly soon in, like, treasure chests in the worlds. So they're really not worth saving up on, or saving up and then blowing all the money. So it's cutscene time.
They'll come at you out of nowhere.
Who are you?
And they'll keep on coming at you.
Oh,
as long as you continue to wield the Keyblade.
The protagonist of the most unfairly neglected
Why would it
Final
choose
Fantasy
a kid like you?
Hey, what's that supposed to mean?
Never mind. Now, let's see that Keyblade.
What? There's no way you're getting this.
Alright. Then have it your way.
It's Squall Leonard from Final Fantasy VIII. Now with 20% more belts. Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Leonhardt or Leon boss fight. This does technically count as a boss fight, but it is purely optional. It is entirely acceptable, and in fact even expected, that you will lose this encounter. But if you manage to pull it out and wear down Squall, you will get a huge amount of EXP, at least for this early in the game, and a special item later on in the Traverse Town main plotline. Now, Squall has two basic attacks. He has a 2-hit combo with his Gunblade, which does a monster amount of damage, and the attack you see him readying right now. A simple, I think it's like a Fire Shot or something like that, which should come from the Gunblade, but clearly isn't. The latter of which, this attack right here, can be reflected at him, to stun him, much as we would do with Waka's Blitzballs, or Selfie's Jump Rope. Really, winning this fight is dependent on two things. First, that you are able to reliably block, deflect, or evade his Gunblade hits, and second, that you were able to reliably reflect and capitalize on the stuns from this attack. Since he's already charging it up, I don't know if I'm going to get the timing spot on this time. I'm probably just going to dodge it, but if we run off a bit, he should charge another, and then we can actually get the fight underway properly. This is the only fight in the early game where you might definitely need to use some of those healing items to stay alive, and the extra item and experience are well worth it, so we are winning this fight at all costs. Now, as you see, good old Leon takes his sweet time getting to us, although we can catch some major air. And I botched that entirely. Again, apologies for the poor gameplay. I'm trying to get a bit better at this. What on earth? Okay, so we can't, like, get him mid-air. I thought we could, for some reason. There we go.
Come on!
And we can even reflect, as I said, his blade attacks. Timing for that's just a little tighter. It may interest you to know that for this game alone, Leon was voiced by David Boreanaz, who you may recognize as Agent Seeley Booth from the hit police procedural Bones. Voicing a character he could not care less about. He still turns in a pretty admirable performance. And we did it without needing to heal or anything. Not my best work, but we managed it, and that's all that matters. And poor Sora is so pathetic that despite winning the fight, he still loses.
Leon.
Time for yet another Final Fantasy cameo, this time Final Fantasy VII's Master Ninja Yuffie
Looks like
Kisaragi.
things are worse than we thought. A lot worse.
By the way, she is voiced by former Disney Channel superstar and very successful actress and activist Christy Carlson Romano, who also turns in a pretty fantastic performance. Some of the other big names they get for Final Fantasy characters, not so much. This scene right here, focusing on our real hero, was unique to the Kingdom Hearts Final Mix edition. This was not in the original game. Now, this cutscene was not voiced purely for artistic purposes. Not at all, because by the time they localized this, David Gallagher, Riku's voice actor, could not reliably replicate his voice as he had performed it more than a decade earlier. No. Purely artistic direction. Any Disney fan should know who that is, and be very excited
there's
right
nobody
now.
here. Sure is spooky.
Actually, I'm not scared.
Excuse me. Did the king
It's a
send
ghost! Ugh, that facial expression.
Come on, lazy bum. Wake up. You okay?
I guess.
Those creatures that attacked you are after the Keyblade. But it's your heart they really want. Because you wield the Keyblade.
I'm so glad that you're okay, Kairi.
Kairi? Who are you talking about?
I'm the great ninja Yuffie. I think you might have overdone it, Squall.
That's Leon.
The Keyblade.
Yeah, we had to get it away from you to shake off those creatures. It turns out that's how they were tracking you.
It was the only way to conceal your heart from them. But it won't work for long. Still, hard to believe that you, of all people, are the chosen one.
The first of many instances of the game's script lampshading the fact that Sora is a completely
I suppose
incompetent
beggars can't be
protagonist.
choosers.
Why don't you start making sense? What's going on here?
Okay. You know there are many other worlds out there, besides your castle in this town, right?
Yeah?
But they're supposed to be a secret.
It is so surreal
They've
watching
been secret,
Donald
because they've never
Duck
been
and
connected.
Goofy take
Until now.
part in what are supposed to
When
be
the
very
Heartless came,
dramatic discussions and
Everything
scenes.
changed.
The Heartless?
The ones who attacked you, you remember?
Those without hearts.
The darkness in people's hearts. That's what attracts them.
And there is darkness within every heart.
Hey, have you heard of someone named Ansem?
Ansem?
He was studying the Heartless. He recorded all of his findings in a very detailed report.
It's worth noting that
Gosh,
Eris
can we see it?
Gainsborough,
Its
this
pages are
character
scattered
right here,
everywhere.
also a
Too
walking
many
specter
words.
from Final Fantasy VII.
Oh,
has
then maybe
a
the king
very
went to find him.
high-profile voice actor for this game.
Yes.
Those were my thoughts.
Her VA
exactly.
work was done by Mandy
We
Moore,
gotta find
of all
him
people.
quick.
Red! First we need that
So
key.
between more
That's right.
Boreanas and
The key